Hi everyone, my name is Leo. Today I want to talk about a very famous book called Little Woman, written by Louisa May Alcott, more than 1500 years ago. That sounds like a really long time, right? But the amazing thing is, people still read it today and they still love it. At first, I thought it might just be an old story. But actually, it's a story that feels very real. It's about 4 sisters, their family, and how they grow up. And it teaches lessons that are still important for us now. So, let's talk more about the story. Little Woman follows the life of the March family during the time of the American Civil War. The 4 sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth and Amy, live in a small house with their mother, Mommy. Their father is away serving as a chaplain in the army, which means the family has to manage everything on their own. Even though they are not rich, Mommy teaches the girls to stay grateful and to always think of others. For example, in the very beginning, when they finally have a small Christmas breakfast, instead of keeping it, they bring it to a poor family who needs it more. That moment shows us how the story isn't just about their own lives, but about kindness and generosity too. Each sister is very different, and that's what makes the book so fun to read. Meg, the oldest, often worries about money and wishes she could have nice things like other girls. Jo is the opposite. She doesn't care about fancy clothes. She's wild, loud, and full of ideas. She dreams of being a writer and doesn't want to follow the traditional path that society expects for women. Beth is the quiet one, the peacemaker, and she loves music. She spends a lot of time playing the piano and making everyone happy. Amy, the youngest, is artistic and loves painting. At the start, she can be a little selfish, but as the story goes on, she learns important lessons about growing up. The story takes us through many of their everyday experiences, going to parties, having arguments, sharing secrets, and helping each other. But it also shows us serious challenges. For example, Beth gets very sick at one point, and it deeply affects the whole family. Jo struggles with her writing career and with finding her place in the world. Meg has to learn how to balance her own dreams with the duties of being an adult. And Amy, who travels to Europe, learns how to mature and make better choices for her life. What's really special is that the book doesn't give us a perfect fairy tale ending. Instead, it shows the sisters facing real problems and growing up in different ways. Some of them follow their dreams, some of them make sacrifices, and all of them learn that life is about love, responsibility, and courage. That's why Little Woman feels so real, because it doesn't pretend that life is always easy. It shows us both the happy times and the painful ones, but always with the message that family and love can guide us through everything. One of the best things about Little Woman is how different each sister is. They are like 4 pieces of a puzzle, each unique, but together make the story complete. And each of them teaches us a different lesson. Meg is the eldest sister. She feels the responsibility of being the firstborn, and sometimes she wishes she had a richer life with pretty dresses and luxury. But over time, she learns that real happiness isn't about money or fancy things. Her story teaches us that being responsible, kind, and loving your family is much more important than chasing wealth. Meg shows us the lesson of maturity, that growing up means making choices not just for yourself, but for the people you love. Jo is the most famous of the sisters. She is bold, outspoken, and refuses to be limited by society's rules for women in the 19th century. Jo dreams of being a writer, and she works hard to follow that dream. But Jo also struggles. She gets rejected. She feels misunderstood, and she often fights with her sisters because of her fiery temper. What Jo teaches us is that following your passion is not always easy, but it's worth it. And being true to yourself, even when the world doesn't approve, takes great courage. Beth is the gentle heart of the family. She doesn't speak loudly, she doesn't chase big dreams, but she makes the home warm and peaceful. Her love for music, her kindness to neighbours, and her quiet strength make everyone feel safe. When Beth gets seriously ill, it becomes one of the most emotional parts of the book. Through Beth, we learn that kindness and love, even if they seem small, are actually the greatest powers of all. She shows us that not all heroes are loud, some are soft and gentle, but just as strong. Amy is the youngest and maybe the most complicated. At the beginning, she can seem selfish. She cares a lot about how she looks and what people think of her. But later, Amy travels to Europe, practices her art, and grows into a more thoughtful person. She learns that true beauty isn't just about appearance, but about maturity, responsibility, and sacrifice. Amy's story reminds us that it's okay to start imperfect, as long as we are willing to change and grow. But when we look at all the 4 sisters, we see that Little Women is not just about their individual stories, but about how they support one another. They argue, they make mistakes, they even hurt each other sometimes, but in the end, they forgive, they learn, and they stay connected. That's the most important lesson. Family is not being about perfect, it's about growing together. What makes Little Women unforgettable is not just the story, but the lessons hidden inside it. Louisa May Alcott didn't write about castles or magic, she wrote about everyday life. And yet it feels magical because of the value it carries. The first lesson is about family. Even when the March family has very little, they never stop caring for one another. Their love is the biggest treasure. That shows us that family doesn't need to be perfect or rich to be happy. What matters is kindness and support. The second lesson is about courage. Jo's courage is to follow her dreams. Beth's courage is to stay gentle in the hard times. Amy's courage is to admit mistakes and grow. And Meg's courage is to simply live with love. Courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, patient, and humble. And the last lesson is about sacrifice. Each sister gives up something. Jo sacrifices for family. Amy sacrifices her pride. Meg sacrifices luxury. Beth sacrifices her own comfort. Through their choices, the book shows us that sacrifice is not weakness, it is the way love grows deeper. That's why Little Women still matters today. It reminds us that even in a world that asks for more, the real value of life is love, courage, and kindness. When I read Little Women, it feels like I speak to both children and adults. It's not just a story for one age group, it's for everyone. For kids like me, the book feels like having 4 big sisters teaching us lessons. Meg teaches us responsibility, Jo teaches us bravery, Beth teaches us kindness, and Amy teaches us how to change and grow. It shows us how to dream big, but also how to accept challenges. It makes us realize that mistakes are part of growing up, and that's okay. For adults, I think this book is like a mirror. It reminds them of what really matters, not money, not fame, but family, love, and living honestly. Adults may sometimes forget these things because life is busy and stressful. But when they read Little Women, they remember the warmth of home, the joy of small moments, and the power of staying true to themselves. And that's why the book has lasted more than 1,500 years. Times have changed. Technology has changed, but the lessons in Little Women are still the same. It tells us that no matter what or where we live, we all want to be loved, to be kind, and find meaning in life. So, to finish, I want to say that Little Women is more than just a novel. It's like a guidebook for the heart. It shows us love, sacrifice, dreams, and what it means to truly grow up. When we look at Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, we don't just see 4 characters. We see parts of ourselves. Maybe sometimes we are like Jo, brave and loud. Sometimes we are like Beth, quiet but caring. Sometimes we are like Amy, struggling to be better. And sometimes we are like Meg, trying to balance responsibility with our own dreams. That's why the story feels so close to us, because we can all find ourselves in it. If you haven't read Little Women yet, I really recommend it. It might make you laugh, it might make you cry, but most of all, it will make you think about the people you love and about the kind of the person you want to become. Thank you so much for listening to my review. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe feel inspired to read the book. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment about your favourite sister from the story, and subscribe for more book reviews. See you in the next one!